Hello and welcome to another video. Today I am doing a Way of Kings reading vlog and I'm gonna regret this. I know I am. I know I'm gonna regret this because I know it's gonna be really long. It's gonna be a pain to edit. Bree did reading vlogs for the Stormlight book. She just did them last year, which I will link down below, by the way. You can see Bree's videos of reading all 4 Stormlight books that are currently out. Me reading them is going to be all 4 books and both novellas, and eventually I'll read Way of Kings Prime because I have it now because of the Kickstarter, so eventually I'll read that. But for now, we're talking about Way of Kings.
I can reach for a well-worn book to give me an escape.
Now, I've read The Way of Kings a few times now. 2 or 3 times? I honestly don't remember anymore, but this time we're reading it it's our September pick for the Cosmere Crab-along, which is what Bree and I are hosting as a year-long Cosmere read-along. If you don't know what that is, the links are always in the description. Go check it out. But yes, so Way of Kings. I will say, if you haven't read through like Rhythm of War, do not watch this video. Okay, I'm telling you right now. I mean that honestly. I'm going to spoil some big shit for you because I'm rereading this and I'm going to be having a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts about things that you do not know about yet if you have only read The Way of Kings. Do not watch this. Do not. If you have not read through Rhythm of War, do not watch this video. I'm gonna say it again. Do not watch unless you have read through Rhythm of War. This will spoil you. And now, normally I'm a person that doesn't mind spoilers, which is still true. However, I do try to avoid them more for Stormlight than I do for like most other things. Stormlight is like the one thing that my brain is like, no, we just gotta go for it. Yes, I'm about to start Way of Kings. It's only September 2nd, but I read Stormlight really slow, so it's gonna take me a while. I think the plan is to do like 50 or 100 pages a day until I finish it. And then I'm also gonna try and edit this video as I go, because if I don't, it's gonna be a pain. I still haven't edited my Steros cosplay video, so I have to do that this weekend, but that's not here yet. So for now, we're going to try and get a little bit into Way of Kings. I have to say, I don't understand how people read the prelude to the series and aren't interested in like what's gonna happen next. Like, I legitimately don't understand how you read that prelude and are not like, I need to know everything immediately. But that's who I am as a person. If you've ever wondered how I read books, the fact that like it starts, like the prelude is like 3 or 4 pages. How long is this? It's like 3 pages long. And it just really, like, yeah, that's what I want. And then it's like 3 pages of text and then it says 4,500 years later. And then we jump right into the prologue, which of course says, Fest, son of Villano, truthless of Shinovar, wore white on the day he was to kill a king. I think most people who have read Stormlight have that line memorized. It's just so like iconic. I do think I could probably do like a large part of the prelude too, but we're not going to do that right now. So I have annotated this copy before, but I think I'm going to go like super hardcore annotating it this time and taking note for the Crab-along, but also just for my brain. I'm going to try and read some. Like I said before, do not watch this if you have not read through Rhythm of War. I'm probably going to say it more than once, but I will say, I know for a fact that I'm going to mention something at the end of the prologue that you don't learn until Rhythm of War. So don't do that to yourself. I appreciate the support. If you want to watch this video to like show me support, don't do it. Don't do it. Just leave. Leave. Goodbye. Goodbye. I'll see you when you're done with Rhythm of War. Maybe. You probably won't come back to this, which is fine. I understand. I forget things all the time. Here we go. My buddies. Look at those buddies. Being good buddies. Honestly, I'm gonna skip the acknowledgements this time. It's not the time right now. It's the time to get into this. I'm so excited. I really love Stormlight. I'm so excited to reread. I'm so excited to reread Rhythm of War. Bree and I meant to reread it like after it came out, like and after we had first read it, but it turned out we didn't have time because then we were planning the Crab-along and we were like, oh shit, no, we're doing this. So
We left school, we're on the run now. The rules stopped working out for me. not faced, I've done the research. I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, so there's like so much stuff, so much good stuff that happens in this chapter with Sveth, especially because it's like showing you the magic system just so well. I'm not like, I like fight scenes, but I do get kind of bored with them after a few pages normally. But Sanderson's I can hold on for longer, and this one I have read several times and still like keeps my attention. I think just because of the way that it is describing the magic system so like seamlessly as it's also describing the fight. It gets a little repetitive, but I think that's just because I've read so much more and like I do deeply understand this magic system. So it gets a little repetitive for me, but I feel like for someone who's reading it for the first time, this like repetition of the lashings and like what lashing is which probably really help. There's also some just really good lines in here. I'm here to read you this one. It's from like a few pages in. I'm on page 28 in my like big paperback copy. So it says, here in Ellis-Car, men often spoke of the legends of mankind's hard-won victory over the Voidbringers. But when weapons created to fight nightmares were turned against common soldiers, the lives of men became cheap things indeed. There's also a line up above about how they dropped around him like toys knocked over by a child's careless kick. Like, there's so many good lines about how like powerful the shard blades are, especially when turned against people who aren't carrying a shard. Like, it's just so interesting to me. It's so interesting. It's so good. I just like, I forget how much I love this series. I don't really forget how much I love the series, but like when I'm currently reading it, I am just like, I just love it so much. It's so good. Like, if anyone has ever wondered why Bree and I have tattoos from this series, this is why. Like, you read this and you're just like, it's just so good. I don't think I want any more. I'm gonna say this, then it's gonna be wrong. I don't think I want any more quote tattoos. I have, how many quote tattoos do I have? 4. I think 4 out of 5 of my tattoos have quotes in them. So I don't think I want any more quote tattoos, but I do definitely want more like Stormlight and Cosmere in general tattoos. I'm really considering getting one of these symbols, one of the Night Radiant symbols. But then I'd have to like truly pick an order, and I don't know if I can like I can do that. I know which order I like, but I don't know if I can like truly pick an order. It's hard. It's so hard, but I definitely want more. Oh, my phone is ringing. Okay, hold on. Okay, that was my mom. I don't remember what I was saying or if I had anything more to say besides that I love this, but I love this. It's very good. So I'm gonna finish the prologue and then I might try and read chapter 1. I'm not sure yet. It's not very long though, I don't think. I'm gonna come back at the end of the prologue though, because I know I'm gonna have thoughts. I know what's coming because Bree just reread this like last week, the week before. Time is fake, but Bree just reread it and sent me a picture and I had totally forgotten that it's there. Like, I knew about it, but it just left my brain. So I'll be back in like, hold on. Okay, I'm back like a page later because I want to talk about how interesting it is that some of the things we're told are not things that hold true because of the fact that Sveth isn't a Radiant. He's holding an honor blade, and so that makes his powers work differently from the powers that we see later with the actual Radiants. And I just think it's like so interesting because we have this moment where it says like, where is it? Like, the Tempest within Sveth gave him many advantages, including the ability to quickly recover from small wounds, but it would not restore limbs killed by a shard blade. However, Radiants can restore limbs killed by shard blades. So like, it's just so interesting that the fact that all of this information is happening right here, but we learn that some of it is not true for like the characters that we will end up following. It's true for people that carry honor blades, and I just love that. I think it's so much fun. So yeah, like I said, we're spoiling for all the books here. If you thought I was kidding, I was not. We're going full out here, so keep that in mind, friends. I don't know why I keep pointing at you threateningly with my pencil, but sometimes that's just how it be, you know? So I finished the prologue, and just when Bree read it last week, I totally Like, I knew, because it was reminded to us after we had read For Them of War, that this line was in the prologue. And I just forgot about it, because so much has happened since then. We've been rereading a lot of other stuff, but now we're back in Stormlight Land. So the fact that Gavilar says, like, you can tell Thydakar that he's too late, and I'm just like, fucking Thydakar, I don't want to talk about it, I'm so concerned. And I still can't believe, people didn't get it, but anyway, that's a whole thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you haven't read Them before, because I don't understand how you read about Thydakar and you don't know who that man is immediately, because Bree, Justin, and I knew in like 0.5 seconds. We read it, we were like, oh shit, it's this bitch. This bitch is here now. So anyway, I just love the line, like, you can tell Thydakar that he's too late, and Sveth's like, I don't know who that is, man, you're talking nonsense. And then the sphere with the light that is completely dark but seemed to glow somehow with the light that was black, like, I totally forgot about that again until Read Them Before. Just totally forgot about it. Like, there's so much other stuff that happens in these books that sometimes you just forget about stuff, which is why you have to reread them like 15 times like Bree has, because otherwise you're just not going to catch it, because there's just so much going on at all times. Like, I've said it before, because people say that Sanderson's stuff is too long, and like, but what would you cut out of this? Like, because I can't think of anything. Like, there's one or two things that from stuff we read previously, like scenes or moments that I would cut down on. But like, overall, there really isn't much from his work. Like, he's not a flabby writer, is the thing. He's a very tight writer. Like, everything has a purpose, even if you don't know that purpose yet. There's so much going on. Like, the fact that the end of the series is in the first book hurts my brain. It hurts my brain. I just can't. And my memory is just not good enough to fully, like, be able to turn all this information around and try and, like, make it lock into place. Like, I try, and I think I'm much better than I was at the beginning, and, like, I'm better than, like, a casual person, but I'm definitely not on the level of, like, even Bree is. Bree, you're amazing. You keep so much Stormlight knowledge in your head, and Cosmere knowledge in general, and I keep some of it, but a lot of it, I just can't keep, my brain just doesn't want to do it. I'm trying, though. I'm trying to, like, keep things in more. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I read the prologue. I'm gonna read chapter 1 now. And we'll see how it goes, because, like, Jesus Christ. Chapter 1 is called Stormblessed, because of course it is. It makes me so happy. Also, I really like the death rattles, which are the epigraphs. I just love them so much. I think they're so interesting and so creepy. Like, the first one is like, the love of men is a frigid thing, a mountain stream only 3 steps from the ice. We are his. Oh, Stormfather, we are his. It is but 1,000 days and the Everstorm comes. Also, it makes me curious about what middle years means. Because I don't know how old people live to on Roshar. It can't be that long, though. Let's be honest. That planet is out to kill them. Like, it can't be long. They're basically living, like, in Australia, but in the Cosmere. Cosmere, Australia. That's Roshar. Anyway, I'm gonna start chapter 1 with our fake, you know. I really like this fake out you get of, like, okay, we're here now. We're in part 1. We're starting chapter 1. You know, this is like the main character thing. Like, I love that fake out, because I think everyone, myself included, when they first read this book, is like, oh, we're meeting our main character. He's like a plucky guy that just joined the army, and like, he's doing stuff, and there's like an older gentleman that's gonna help him, whose name is Caledon. Wow, we love Caledon. He seems great. He's gonna be like an older brother figure, and, like, you know, and then this is gonna be such a long vlog. I'm so sorry to you and to my future self. I'm so sorry, and my phone is lighting up with messages from the Discord, I'm pretty sure, so I'm sorry about that as well. I'll move it for the next clip. Reading. I'm just here to read you the quote. For a moment, Sen thought he could see something surrounding the squad leader, a warping of the air, like the wind itself become visible. It's just like, I love this so much. Oh my god, okay, I'm gonna stop. Probably. Okay, it's several days later, and I haven't read anything else since we last spoke. So I'm about to start chapter 2, which is Caledon's first like official chapter in Way of Kings, and I'm just having a mental breakdown about the fact that it's called Honor is Dead, and Bree is laughing at me because she can see me filming this. We're doing reading sprints right now. I'll show you in a second. We're doing reading sprints. We just started a 40-minute sprint, and I'm gonna try and get this chapter complete. I'm also decided that I am tabbing more specifically this read through, and obviously I'm annotating. I almost always annotate when I read like Cosmere books. So I have 4 colors picked out. I might end up doing more, but I don't want to like over complicate it because it will just confuse me. I have a small brain. I'm tired, I have a small brain. I've had like a shifting headache to migraine for like the last 4 days. So my head is not doing great. It's doing a little better. It was okay this morning, but then I like wrenched a thing in my shoulder and now it's doing worse again. But anyway, I'll show you our reading sprint. Here we go. Here we are. We're reading. We're doing stuff. Us 3 are here. Max had to not join us because he wasn't feeling great, but he's in the chat, so it's all good. I'll check in a bit.
It's time to stop reading and start writing. Hermione, put down those history books.
Okay, we're on our second sprint, and I have read the first Caledon chapter, and I'm into the first Shaylin chapter, and I don't even know what I want to say. I just knew that I wanted to update you guys again, even though it's been like, I really haven't read that much. I've read like 20 pages, but Caledon just like, I just forgot about Caledon. Which I don't know how, but these first interactions that we see between Caledon and Syl are just like so important to me, and I don't know why. But just seeing her, like, she's just so childlike, and she just like wants to understand. She's just so nice. I just love them a lot. And then Shaylin, like her first getting into port at Cabrance and looking for Jasna, and like I haven't even finished the chapter yet, but like knowing what she's doing. Shaylin, why? Shaylin, why? And also she seems so normal at the start, like a normal teenage girl who's some bad like family stuff happening that we don't really know about yet, but like she seems pretty normal. And it's like, even at this point, she is not normal. Like rereading this, knowing everything that, not everything, but rereading this, knowing what we know now about Shaylin is going to be interesting to me, because it's definitely going to change how I read her. Like I obviously, not to say that I don't love her as a character, because I do love her as a character. She's such a great character. She's so interesting. She's a great character, but like just reading this and knowing this all is just like, it's a lot. So I'm 70 pages in now. I also forgot how much I love the death rattles. I keep reading them out loud to myself. I don't know if other people do this, but when like I like things, I read them out loud to myself. Like I almost kind of want to read this whole book out loud to myself, but that would take forever and we don't have time for that. So I'm not going to do it. However, the death rattles are just so good. Like some of them I feel like there isn't as much in there than others, but some of them are like, what is happening? Like 10 orders, we were loved once. Why have you forsaken us, Almighty? Shard of my soul, where have you gone? And then the next one for chapter 4 is, I'm dying, aren't I? Healer, why do you take my blood? Who is that beside you with his head of lines? I can see a distant sun, dark and cold, shining in a black sky. And it's just like, that's a lot. Anyway, so I'm almost done with this chapter. I'm gonna finish this chapter, which is 2 pages, before the sprint ends, because it was a 30-minute sprint and now we've got 6 minutes left because I was eating popcorn. It's Bree's fault. Yeah, we're still over here doing stuff. Right before the sprint, Steph filmed a little clip for her reading vlog, which I will put in the description and in the cards if I remember to, so that you can go watch it, because I'm sure it will be great watching someone's like first time reaction to it. But Haley said hello vlog, so I thought I'd add it into mine as well. Yeah, I'm gonna keep reading. I'm not gonna catch up to Bree today. I thought about trying, and then I realized she was like 150 pages ahead of me, and she's been reading this whole sprint, so she's even more ahead of me now. So I don't think I'm gonna catch up to Bree, but that's okay for now. Okay, it's been like a minute, but I'm back because I just want to talk about for a second. This is like a whole probably other video or a different rant. I just want to talk about the fact that they have organized religion in this world. It's been 4,500 years, and we know from later that the desolations were so close together that civilization couldn't really move forward at all, and so most of the stuff that they've done has been in this last less than 5,000 years. And so it's just so interesting to me that they have an organized religion, and like multiple ones. Like there's multiple organized religions happening, some of them more strictly organized than others. It's just interesting to me because I don't really know what I'm saying or how to say it, but I do want to point out that they have organized religion, and that I am surprised that they did it so quickly and it is so organized. I don't know enough to make like a whole video discussion on this, but if someone does, or if someone has made a whole video about like why and how and like the intricacies into religion in these books, because I think Sanderson does religion very well and it's very interesting. Organized religion in high fantasy is just, it's just interesting to me. It's just one of those things, you know, that I'm just like, I want to understand more, which is interesting because I'm not religious in real life. I grew up Catholic and I went to like a Catholic school and everything, but like it wasn't like, I wasn't super immersed in the religion really. I mean, we didn't go to church every Sunday or anything. It wasn't like that. Like I went to a Catholic school, but that Catholic school I went to for elementary to middle school was like very chill about it, along with the church that we went to when we did go. So I don't know, I just think it's interesting like how strict like foreign religion is, and people who understand religion better, I would love to hear their thoughts on the religions in Sanderson's books and like what they mean, because it's just so interesting to me that someone that's Mormon has made these other religions and made them so well and so carefully. Like it makes sense to me that religion is a heavy theme in all of his works, because obviously religion is a heavy theme in his life to himself, so it makes sense to me, but I'm just super interested. This is a long rambly clip that literally does not matter, means nothing, and we've got a minute left in the sprint now, so I'm gonna leave. But yeah, if you know any videos or any posts or anything of people like going into the religion in Stormlight or in any of Sanderson's works, let me know, because I would be interested.
This is Sylphrena. Sylphrena. This is very important for my Way of Kings vlog.
Okay, it is the next day, and I just did some reading sprints with some romance booktuber people, which is always a fun time. I'm not very good at it though. I'm very like quiet around new people, and so if there's new people, like if there's no one I've sprinted with before, I'm just very quiet about it. But anyway, that's not the point. The point of this is Way of Kings. So I'm gonna try and read 50 more pages, because apparently that's all my brain can do. I get to 50 pages and I'm done. It's officially September 7th, so I have like less than a month to finish this, but I'm making slow progress, so that's all that matters. I will say I have this thing where when I'm reading a Stormlight book, this is one of the things that why it takes me so long to read Stormlight books, I'm pretty sure, is because I'm like, I have to force myself to read them, even though when I'm like actively reading them, I'm having like the best time ever. It's a very weird conundrum that I do have with other books, but not as intensely as I have it with Stormlight. And I think just because like they're so intimidating looking, I started this during the romance sprints because I didn't feel like Way of Kings was very romancy. So, but now we're switching brain from romance to Way of Kings. Very different vibe, romance to high fantasy, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay, 50 pages. Well, we did Caledon's first bridge run, and I forgot how it's a hell of a run for his first bridge run. It's just like, why is my hair still down? Yeah, it's a bridge run, alright. I only read like 10 pages, so I have a lot to go, but I just wanted to say, I didn't even know what I wanted to say. I just felt like I had to check back in after that bridge run because it's a lot. And also we learned Sylphrena's name in that chapter, and I just love her, like, her confusion. I mean, that sounds weird, but like I love like how the Spren act when they're first like coming over to the side, and how I just love the Spren so much. I want the Spren politics book. When's my Spren politics happening, please? But like he asks her if she has a name, and she says, yes, I do have a name. Why do I have a name? And I just love that he's like, I don't know, why are you asking me? She's like, Sylphrena. Syl, the spirit said. She cocked her head. That's amusing. It appears that I have a nickname. I just love that a lot. Obviously this is happening while Caledon is like, one final torment that the world had reserved just for Caledon, and it was called Bridge 4. He's like at the lowest of the low right now. He's having a time. But it's okay because Syl is there. That's how I feel. I'm just glad Syl is here. I'm back to Shaylin. Honestly, I think I don't dislike Shaylin's chapters in this book, but I also don't super like them, which is weird because I love Jasna. Jasna is like such an interesting character, and like interesting things happen in Shaylin's chapters, but they're not my favorite to read in this first book, and I'm not exactly sure why, but maybe we'll figure it out on this reread. We'll see. Okay, I'm 140 pages in now. I took my makeup off. I am enjoying Shaylin's chapters more than I remember, mostly because of Jasna, as always. I mean, I love Shaylin, don't get me wrong, I totally love Shaylin, but I mean, she's Jasna, so. But I do love her ploy of getting like Jasna to try to take her on as a ward. I love how like she's gonna give up and then Yalb is like, one more time, third time's the charm kind of thing. I love Yalb as a character. He's really fun, he's interesting. We need more Yalb in our lives is what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say at this point. I just wanted to update you. I think I'm stopping here for the night. My eyes are kind of burning and it wasn't quite 50 pages, but you know what, it was more pages than I expected, so we're happy about that. Also, I don't think I've mentioned, oh, I just lost my page. It's going great. I don't think I've mentioned my tabbing system yet. Where did my page go? I don't think I've mentioned my tabbing system yet. These blue tabs are from the last time I read it, but these tabs are from this time. Handy little flip out thing so I can remember which goes to which. General world building, Cosmere shit, Stormlight plot, good shit. There hasn't been a lot of plot elements, really. But chapter 9 is called Damnation. I still haven't reached Dalinar, I realize. I don't actually remember when he comes in. I think it's after. I think it's in part 2 actually. I don't even think it's in part 1, so it's gonna take me a hot second. But I'll be excited when I get there because I really like Dalinar's chapter today. I'm almost to the end of the part. Maybe I should read until the end of the part. No, I can't. My eyes are burning. I'm like this far from the end of the book. I'm enjoying my reread. I love this book. I'm this far through it now. Not very far still, but you know, slow and steady. Slow and steady. I'll get there. Okay, it's been a week since I read any of Way of Kings. We're gonna rectify that today. It's September 14th. I need to get some more read. Also, I don't actually do my makeup as often as this vlog is making it seem, but I've been like testing new makeup stuff recently, and also the days I do makeup are the days that I actually have extra spoons, so that is also when I tend to be reading Way of Kings. So all of these things just kind of line up. I do not actually wear makeup, although I've been wearing it a lot more than usual with the testing of stuff. Okay, I finished chapter 11 and I was not prepared for chapter 11. I forgot that that was the Honor Chasm chapter, but it was. And I made it without crying because I still have my makeup on. So I'm thinking I might take my makeup off now. But anyway, so I just read like 3 chapters, I think. I have to say, Damnation, the one with like Caledon being so apathetic, is just so relatable for me. I mean, I have obviously never been in the kinds of situations he's finding himself in, but that level of apathy I have definitely had. Like, my depression normally manifests, I guess is the word I'm looking for, with apathy, so that was just very familiar. And then we have the flashback with Lyrin. I don't super like Lyrin. I don't know, I don't dislike him. He does like genuinely love his sons and just want the best for them. He just wants Caledon to have like a good time. Like when he turns 16, he wants to send him off to Cabrant to train to be a surgeon and everything, and I just like that. But overall, Lyrin's not my favorite. And then we have the Honor Chasm chapter, which is always just so painful to read. Just reading how he's just so done. And then how Syl goes to get him a leaf because she felt like the leaf helped him, and it's just like the worst poison in the world. And I just love that she just doesn't understand. But she's trying so hard, and that's kind of part of what convinces Caledon to try again, because she's trying so hard and she cares. And then also I love her argument that gets him to like really agree to start trying again. It's like, they're already going to die, like what more can you do to them if you even try and help? I like that argument because it's probably the only argument that Caledon would listen to at this point. And then he threatens Gaz, and then he meets Teft. I don't know why throughout the Honor Chasm thing I was like feeling it, but I was not tearing up. But then Teft happens and I got emotional. I wrote like so many hearts around his name. I don't know if it's gonna focus, but Teft is one of my faves, and That's all I'm gonna say about that. Yeah, and I like that he feels better because he has responsibility. That is not a feeling I can relate to out of all of Caledon's. Responsibility makes me anxious. But you know what? I'm glad it's working for him. And now we have the first interludes. So I'll probably do the interludes and then check back in. And then we get a Dalinar chapter. Our first Dalinar chapter, which is called Unity, which I did not realize until Bree told me, because I wasn't there yet. He really went off on these first chapter titles. Shaylin's I feel like aren't as related, I guess, aren't as meaningful, her chapter titles. At least so far. They're not as like, I mean, I don't know what they would be to have meaning. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading. Okay, I have finished the interludes, which I enjoyed. I enjoy like the look into the Pure Lakes, seeing how they are and everything, and the Pure Lakes themselves, and seeing our three friends just looking for Hoyd, as we all are, always, honestly. Is it Ballot? Lot? I don't remember. I don't really pronounce it in any way in my head. It's the best chapter where he once again changes hands, and it's just very sad. And then we have the beginning of part 2 with Unity, which I have just realized a page and a half in is not from Dalinar's point of view. It's from Adolin's point of view. I mean, it might change. I don't actually know. I'm only a page and a half in, so it might swap. Yes, it does. Okay, it switches from Adolin to Dalinar, but it starts with Adolin's point of view, which just seems very interesting to me, considering that it's called Unity. Like, it has that significant word at the beginning. The other thing is that Sadeas said one word, and I wanted him to shut up already. And then Renarin said a sentence, and I wanted to give him a hug. I wouldn't, because he wouldn't want the hug, but I felt the need to hug him because he's adorable and precious and too good for this world. But that's besides the point. I've officially read the first 2 Dalinar chapters, I think. The first one, Unity, is pretty damn long, I have to say. And then the second one is called 10 Heartbeats, I think. So we have, like, obviously we have the letter as the epigraphs now. And we also have this Chasm Fiend battle, which I've already mentioned in this vlog, but battle scenes can be kind of boring for me. However, the way that Sanderson writes them, I don't know what it is, but I read the whole thing. Normally I don't. Normally I'll like skip things because I'm just like, ugh, they've been going on for so long. And I feel like in the future, I feel like a few of his Sanderson's fight scenes reach that point, but this one is perfect. It is amazing. It is so well done. We have, you know, Dalinar and Adolin double teaming this Chasm Fiend and everything. And then we have Renarin riding in for a second to offer help, and Dalinar sending him back away. And I'm just like, he rode in though, with no shard plate on. Like, I love him so much. Renarin is my favorite. I love him with all of my heart. He's just so great. And then obviously we have Elokar just being kind of an idiot. Just putting himself in danger for no reason. So that's always fun. Oh, I do really like we get a brief, very brief introduction to Wit in these chapters as well. Just a very brief. Wit is such an interesting version of Hoyd. It's the most Hoydy we get him in any of the Cosmere books so far. It's not strictly him, but it's very close, and it's just very interesting to see him as Wit and to see him interacting with these characters. I love that Renarin doesn't want to say anything to him because he doesn't want Wit to tease him more. And I love that Wit says to Dalinar, "Those who deserve my mockery are those who can benefit from it. That one is less fragile than you think him." And it's like, yeah, he is. He is less fragile than you think he is. We also have, like, Adolin seeing Dalinar, and I just love the quote, like, other men thought they understood shard blades and shard plate, but Dalinar Kholin, at times, he proved them all children. And I just love this way that Dalinar has of interacting with his shard plate and everything, like how he seems to, like, instinctually understand it and works with it and whatever in ways that other people just can't replicate. There's just a lot of interesting stuff going on already. And I love this book so much. Okay, I went to take a break after the interludes, but I obviously didn't. So I'm gonna take a break now. I'm gonna take my makeup off. I'm gonna get a drink, maybe a snack, and then I'm gonna read some more. I'm on page to 11 right now. Currently we're looking like this, which is definitely a chunk at the very least. Definitely a chunk in. I hit myself in the face, but we'll ignore that part. Also, I love Adolin's girl problems. I forgot to mention this part. I just loved that. He's just so bad at it. I just love it a lot. He's also older than I remembered. I don't know why, but I thought he was, like, I thought him and Renarin were closer in age than they are. I think it said he was like 23, probably like 26 or 20 in like our years. So I'm gonna read more. Next is more Caledon stuff. I'm really looking forward to rereading Caledon stuff and seeing as stuff slowly happens with him, because I realized when I was reading one of his chapters, I forgot to mention this, but I realized reading it that he says to Gaz that he wants to get his earnings, to get the money and have it for himself, which is just what saves his life. Like, that decision to take the money because he can use the money is what saves his life. That is just... Do you ever think about every small detail that is brought together to work the way it does? Because I think about it all the time. So anyway, I'm stopping on chapter 14. Hello. It is the next day, and we're gonna ignore that my eyes are stained with pink eyeshadow. Just ignore that. I didn't end up reading any more last night. But I read a little bit today. Not a lot. I'm just trying to read a little bit of this every day until it's finished. So I read 2 chapters. 14 and 15. We have Caledon doing stuff. We start getting more of the Bridgemen's names. We get Mosh first, which is, you know, fuck Mosh, first of all. Second of all, I'll send a video to Brie that was most dramatic dun 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 zoom in of his name. It made me laugh a lot. I don't know if she appreciated it as much as I appreciated it. We also get to see Rock. We get to see a bunch of them. Sigzil is here at one point. It's just like, I just love the members of Bridge 4. So this like brief view into them is just great. We also have the I really like this conversation that Cal and Sil have. That's like, authority doesn't come from a rank. Where does it come from? From the men who give it to you. That's the only way to get it. And then like Sil talks about how she's changing, how she knows what death is now and lying. And she's like, today I know what death is. Why do I know what death is, Caledon? And he says, you've always been odd for a Spren, even from the start. From the very start, he hesitated, thinking back. Then he's thinking about how she was acting like a normal Windspren for so long before she started changing. He asks, like, does it matter? Which I think is just so very Caledon. Caledon just, like, has this thing where he just accepts things, and he doesn't, like, give them critical thought about, like, what they could mean, like the purpose behind them. It's very interesting to me because I am not that kind of person. I give everything too much thought, and Caledon just seems to like kind of let some things go. He just accepts them and that's it. Anyway, we're jumping between Adolin and Dalinar's point of views in these like chapters, which I think is an interesting way to do it, to show both point of views. Like Dalinar, who is obviously much more knowledgeable and much more, he's just older and he has more experience in all of this stuff. And then Adolin, who is younger, but also sees things that maybe Dalinar wouldn't. Because they both have, obviously, inherent bias in what they're doing and how they're viewing things. And so seeing it from both of their point of views is interesting because you're getting the relationships and everything from both point of views. And it's just really great. I love this part, epigraphs, because it's the first part of the letter, and I just think they're so fun and they're all so interesting. Although this one is particularly great because it really has that like heavy sarcasm in it, and it's like, you do not agree with my quest. I understand that, so much as it is possible to understand someone with whom I disagree so completely. Like, okay dude, chill. Oh, we also learn that Dalinar doesn't remember his wife at all, which is always, I just love that he's just like cruising through life not remembering nothing. And then a lot of his like internal thoughts are in this thing. Like a lot of his thoughts about how most of the Alethi, whatever, seem to not care anymore really about the Vengeance Pact, seem to be more interested in doing their like kind of game things and fighting the Chasm Fiends, not as interested in actually getting vengeance for what they're there for, which I think is very true and very interesting. And they do talk about the bridge crews here. How Sadeas then goes over Renarin, and you wonder why I hate this man so much. Like, you go after my favorite person in this entire world? I don't think so. I will kill you. Dalinar says, like, I'm proud of them both, Sadeas, whatever you think. Because I don't think that's true all the time. He's not proud of both of them all the time. Like, especially Renarin. He's not. Because he's stuck in this culture so completely. With, like, the war thing and how everything has to be so, like hyper competent thing. There's like so much happening in these chapters, and it's all just so annoying because it really shows you the weird high prince thing that just, it bothers me so much, but I also understand how it has come to be in this like society and everything, how they're so fight and war focused. I'm just rambling at this point. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to say before I go. We get like a snippet, our first actual like snippet of the Way of Kings book in text, which is always interesting, and then the chapter ends on this line, which I just really like because it's about the bridgemen, and it says like they were the lowest in the army and yet they bore the weight of kings. It's just a fucking good line. That's a good line right there. Okay, I'm probably not gonna read any more tonight. I'm gonna try and read more tomorrow, just one day at a time, slowly chipping away. Okay, I'm gonna read more in a little bit. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm so phlegmy all of a sudden. First, I have to edit the clips from yesterday and the day before, because if I don't stay on top of it, then I won't. And yes, I am mainly filming this clip to show you one of my makeup tests I did. I'm trying to get better at this makeup thing, and this test went pretty well, I have to say. This is probably one of the few random clips I'm gonna leave in this vlog. I'm mostly cutting out everything else besides just Way of Kings content because it's gonna be a long one. Hello. So I have been reading the last few days, although I didn't read anything yesterday. Brie and I got very distracted, but I have been reading the last 3 days before that. And I have made a significant chunk into the Way of Kings that I have not updated you on. I have read this middle bit and not updated you on it. So I don't know really what to say about it. I don't want to give you super in-depth of something that I am very past now. However, I do want to talk about it a little bit because there is some stuff that is happening in there. Ignore my blanket cape. I am chilly. Obviously, there's a lot happening throughout this entire book. People say this book is slow-paced, and like, no. Anyway, there's just so much happening at all times. So one of the things that obviously I read in this section is the first chasm scene with the spear where we have Caledon, and it's just like there's so many hearts on my page. I don't know if I'll be able to show you, but there's so many hearts and stars and everything. Just so good. It's such a good scene. It's incredible, but definitely one of, like, it's up there. It's so good. And yes, I have makeup on again. I was testing something. I don't know how I feel about it. It's supposed to be like a halo eye effect. You can't really tell because of my hooded eyes and glasses, so not quite the eye look for me, but I was testing things. Anyway, I will say in every reread I seem to like focus and enjoy a certain point of view more than others. Like, I never enjoy them all equally. There's always like one that I enjoy more than others, and I'm not sure why that is. However, for this read along, it is definitely Dalinar and Adolin. Just their point of views with the court intrigue and the politics and everything happening there are my favorites on this reread, and I'm not sure why. I can't explain it to you. I guess I'm just in that headspace where that is the most intriguing thing, which is going to be a problem because I'm about to start part 3, which has no Adolin or Dalinar point of views. We get Caledon and Shaylin, and that's it. And normally I don't mind that. I do love Caledon's chapters always. I mean, I love and Shaylin. I love all of their point of views. Always, because I love them all as characters. I don't know what else to say. I don't want to update you on everything, but I also feel like we're missing a lot of stuff. Our live shows definitely happened by the time this goes up, so if you haven't seen that yet, you should go watch it because I'm sure we had a lot to say. I'm always interested to hear people's like first thoughts on reading Way of Kings, reading all of the Stormlight books for the first time. I just think it's super interesting to hear like what people catch, what they don't catch on a first read. I will say Max, for Max Reads, I will link all our hosts down below because they're amazing. But Max has been catching on like so many things and it's blowing my mind. I will link our live shows and our cosplay videos up above. I will say Sveth's interlude chapters are always my favorite of the interludes, even when like there's interlude characters I really love. I've definitely grown to love all of the interludes so much more than the first time around, or even the second time around. I feel like I had this problem with other books that have interludes in them. The first like 1 or 2 times I read them, the interludes are just so jarring to me. They like break up the story and they're not about the main story, even though they are about like the main world. It's still distracting to me. This reread, I'm just loving them. They're so much fun. I love Sveth's always because they give you this really like broader image of what's happening, at least starting at this second interlude chapter, where he's been tasked to kill someone, and then when he goes to kill them, he finds that his previous master is dead. And this current guy has his oath stone, and he gives him a list of some of the most like powerful people in the world to murder. It's just like such a moment. It's like, oh shit, like what is this about? Is he going to accomplish this? Is he gonna get killed in the process? Like obviously we know he accomplishes it, but it's just so interesting to me like that this is how that interlude section ends, because it really shows you like stuff is happening in the world besides what the Alethi High Princes are doing with their silly squabbles and stuff. Love part 2 doesn't have a Shaylin point of view, so I'm excited to get back to hers. It's been so long, I'm just missing her. Not quite book 1 Shaylin as much as just Jasna. I'm missing Jasna, really. No offense to book 1 Shaylin, but like she knows what she did. Yeah, so I'm excited to like, because I don't remember, like I remember the main plot points of what happened in Shaylin's chapters, but I don't remember like the details of it and that stuff. It's been a while since I've reread Way of Kings. Whew, words are hard to say. So yeah, I'm gonna try and read a good chunk today. We'll see how it goes. Hello, it is the next day from that last clip I filmed. I still have my blanket cape on though, so it's all good. I did end up reading yesterday, well actually very early this morning. Yesterday was just a day. There was stuff happening and I had a panic attack, and then I didn't start reading until like 2 a.m. but I did read like 150 pages, which is a lot for me to read in one Stormlight go, but I also did not update you because it was so late. And the walls of my apartment building are so thin. It's late right now, which is why I'm also talking a little softer. It's almost 10 p.m. and I'm gonna start reading. But yeah, I read a lot last night and I feel really good about how much I read. I forgot how much I love some of the things that happen in this part are just so good. I don't really know what I want to talk about in this update clip because there's a lot of stuff that happens in this section. We get back to Shaylin after that like whole part without any Jasna and Shaylin. Her chapters are just so interesting, and also you get Jasna in them, which is always great. I love Jasna. She's one of my favorite characters. I do like the conversations we get between Jasna and Shaylin. I think they're very interesting. Like everything they talk about is always super interesting. I'm struggling. Oh, we have the first instance where Shaylin thinks she sees something, which is obviously the cryptics, and I don't know why, but every time I reread Way of Kings I forget how freaked out she gets about the cryptics. I just totally forget about it. So anyway, love that. We also have Capsule. I don't remember how to say his name. I don't care about him. Sorry dude, I don't care about you. I think he's very annoying. I think he's very creepy. Yeah. That's all I got. And then I think it's really interesting how Shaylin's like struggling with her want to actually be a scholar, and also the want to like help her family with everything that's going on with her father being dead and the debts that he has incurred that they have to try and pay off, and the Soulcaster thing. And I always forget, like I remember her stealing the Soulcaster, but I always forget it's in reaction to one of my favorite scenes in the world. I can't explain to you how much I just love that scene of Jasna just going off. I just love it. I also love earlier when she's talking about her belief, because she's agnostic and everyone is like she's a heretic. Words are hard. Having a really hard time speaking today, I'm so sorry. But yeah, I just love that whole thing. There's like one quote in particular. Oh, there's also the moment where Jasna brings up like Cosme or whatever, and I was like, not today, I'm too tired. It was like 4 in the morning and I was like, Jasna, I can't. Oh, we also see Taravangian for the first time. Like, I mean, we've seen him before. It's not focused on him, like you don't see much of him. So this is our first time, like, I feel like actually seeing him, and Taravangian scares me, and I think it's so interesting to see him in this first book. So really liked the part where, I don't remember exactly what said, but he says something about like, forgiven me? Like, no, that's not happening. And I agree, he will never be forgiven. So there's that. Also, I mentioned Jasna just casually dropping Cosmere. Shaylin also just casually drops Dawn Shards, and I was just not prepared for that word to be dropped. Like, I know that they drop things randomly and they don't actually say anything about them, but I was so not prepared for the Dawn Shard drop. I was like, please leave. And then there's the epigraph that's talking about the Dawn Shards as well, and it says, taking the Dawn Shard known to bind any creature, voidish or mortal, he crawled up the steps crafted for heralds, 10 strikes tall apiece towards the grand temple above. And it says, from the poem of Ista, I have found no modern explanation of what these Dawn Shards are. They seem ignored by scholars, though talk of them was obviously prevalent among these recording the early mythologies. Which is so interesting, because there's so much that they don't know in this book, and then, I mean, still, like, continuing. Like, there's so much they don't know about their own history, about any of what's happening, and it's just so interesting to me. And then, besides Jasna and Shaylin doing their stuff, and her having stolen Soulcaster and now having a deadline. To let you know where I am, I'm about to start chapter 45, which is called Shadesmar, so exciting. But besides that, we also have Caledon having a time. There's so many scenes with Caledon that I just love. Oh yeah, we get the side carry thing and then him strung up in the high storm, and there's just some scenes in that is just so great. He's strung up in a storm, so it's not great, but he sees the Storm Father, like the face in the storm. He sees Syl like holding back, like trying, not actually, but like pretending or trying to hold back the storm wall to like keep him safe. And then later he sees her like trying to hold back the death spread, and she has like a little glowing sword, and I just love her so much. I love them both so much. I also love when he first wakes up still tied to the thing. Syl is like, you were beaten by those shoulders, but I've gotten back at them. I made one of them trip 3 times today. It's just like, I love her so much. Like, she's obviously like evolved more by this point, but she still has like that childlike thing about her. And then she says like, Caledon, I feel cold. You can feel temperature? Not usually. I can now. I don't understand it. I don't like it. It'll be alright. You shouldn't lie. Sometimes it's alright to lie, Syl. And this is one of those times. Yes. And I just, they're things, the things where he tells this Bridgman that like come out at the end of the story and my eyes will open. Like, what a dramatic bitch. Like, calm down. And then we have the flashbacks, and I just read the flashback where Tien basically gets drafted and then Caledon volunteers to go with him so he doesn't have to go alone, which is so cute and so sad, especially because it ends with the like, you know, I'll bring him back, like it'll be fine, I'll bring him back. And it's like, buddy. Oh yeah, and Teft bringing the sphere for Caledon to drain. Like, Caledon gasped suddenly, drawing in a short, quick, powerful breath. The glow in his hand faded. And then he like sees the wounds start to knit themselves together. I just love so much of this. They get a Lopin. I mean, you can't go wrong with the Lopin. And I love Sigzil's little talk. The talk Caledon and Sigzil have right after he's woken up. When he's like he's really lost hope at this point because of what he realized, that like the Bridgemen are there to die. It's like they prefer the false hope. I just like that. That scene is a good scene. I also love Shaylin bringing her like thing to Jasna about what you did was this, and this, because she has so many complicated feelings about it, and she spent like the last 2 weeks, I think, researching it, which is like such a funny reaction to me. Like, oh, this woman murdered multiple men to save our lives, and I don't feel like it was just or right, so let me go research it. I just love that. I love that. I love them. They're so great. And also there's already like talk about the inconsistencies with the Soulcaster, about how Jasna doesn't use it in a way that people say it's supposed to be used, because I guess it's supposed to be like you tap the gem or whatever, and that's not how Jasna does it because she's not using the Soulcaster. So there's that. I do like the whole, Brie and I were talking about this the other night, the whole Capsule and Shaylin thing. The fact that she's thinking, when she thinks about him, she's not thinking about like how much she whatevers him. She's just thinking about like, oh, I like this guy, but like, it's not gonna happen. We have bigger problems. He's an ardent, like, it's just, and with her problems, like, it's not gonna happen. I really like that. We both really like that, because she is just a kid. She's like 17, which I think is like 19 Earth years. So she's just a teenager having a struggle. I'm gonna read more now. I'm gonna try and read up to where I think Brie is, at least close to where Brie is. I'm gonna try and get to over page 800. I think I'm gonna try and read to 58, chapter 58, and I'm on chapter 45. I don't know if I'll update again. I probably won't. I'm probably just gonna lay down and read as much as I can. Been very high anxiety, as stated by having a panic attack yesterday. There's just stuff going on in my apartment building that is very anxiety inducing. There's that. I'm getting a text message. I'm sorry if you could hear that when it was happening. Hello, it is the next day again. I still have my blanket cape on because it is 60 degrees out all week. I did read to where I was gonna say I was gonna read. I read up to 58, and which is exactly where Brie also stopped the night before, which is nice. And I would like to thank her for stopping there, because I didn't realize until I was on, like, I flipped to finish the last chapter, which is 57, that 57 is Wandersail. Like, I knew it was in here, around here, but I didn't realize that she had like finished right after reading it, which just makes so much sense. It was so nice, you know, read a Hoyd story, have some Hoyd therapy, go to bed. It was nice. I didn't fall asleep for like 2 hours after I read it, but that's besides the point, okay? I don't think I've been mentioning like the dates, but it's now the 29th. I started this book on the 2nd, but most of it I have read in the last like 5 days. Yeah, so there's a lot to talk about again in this section. I have to say, I'm really impressed I'm reading a Stormlight book this like consecutively quickly, and it's given me hope because I really want to read Words of Radiance much earlier in the month, and then maybe even read Oathbringer before November. That's besides the point though. It's 5 p.m. on the 29th, by the way. I'm gonna start reading in a little bit, and I'm probably gonna read with Bree because she has like 100 pages left and I have about 200 pages left. We're gonna try and read together. I kind of want to take a tally of how many like mic drop moments there are in those last like Sandra Lance chunks, because I just feel like there's so much happening and I'm curious. Anyway, we're not there yet though. Right now we're here. What am I trying to say? Oh my god, I'm so sorry, words. I'm trying to think more before I film these clips, like if it's a bigger chunk, so I can try and like articulate myself better. But it's not going so well so far. What I was trying to say is I really like juxtaposition. Is that the word I'm looking for? It might be. Of seeing Dalinar, Adolan, and everyone out on the Shattered Plains fighting this battle, and also Caledon, and then obviously also on the Shattered Plains, but less like in the politics and stuff, but out there fighting against the Parshendi, and then also to have Shaylin reading about that history, what happened leading up to this, reading King Gavilar's account of what happened. Fuck Gavilar, by the way. Anyway, that's another story. The thing about how Navani's biography, which I love that we're mentioned Navani here, has talks about how he was never really a scholar. He was, you know, a leader and a duelist and a genius with battlefield tactics, but he wasn't a scholar. And so the fact that he was so interested in the Parshendi was a real shift in character, like a surprise. And I do like that Jasna is like, you know, if you have caught on that discrepancy is there. I just tried to say that word like 5 times. And also the fact that Shaylin is just so focused on why Jasna is looking up Voidbringers, like she's so confused about it, but she wants to know. Also the things that they tell about the Voidbringers are so weird and creepy, and I love the back and forth with Capsule and Shaylin, where he says like, I think she knows I still intend to try and convert her, and Shaylin goes, of course she does, she's Jasna, she knows practically everything. It's like, yep, that's Jasna. I just really like the line like, but just because I honor the Almighty doesn't mean I'm not going to accept any explanation. And it's just like, yeah, it might be religion, but it still has to make sense. But also like any religion or anything, any person, any, what's the word I'm looking for? Organization, like any organization that demands your blind faith in something, do not trust them. And then this whole section, Shaylin just freaking out, it's just fun to read to me. I just enjoy watching Shaylin freak out, I guess. I don't know what that says about me, but it's fun. Like, she soul casts the goblet into blood. I'm also wondering how Jasna didn't know that Shaylin had done something. Like, did she know? I don't remember. That like, how could she be like so close and not feel something happening? I don't know if you would feel that happening, but I feel like she would have. I don't know, but I do love the cryptics all just like huddled around her like, ooh, what's this? A weird human. Like, guys, chill, okay? You're frightening the child. And then the chapter of Caledon riding the storm is just, it's so good. There's so many like fantastic scenes in this book. I've already mentioned some of them that are my favorites. There's so many of them. It's ridiculous. And then the Stormfather speaks to him and he's so dramatic. Stormfather, you need to calm down. But like, child of Tanavas, child of honor, child of one long since departed. It's like, did you really have to say that in 3 different ways? Could you just say it in one way? The Oath Pact was shattered. Men ride the storms no longer. The Oath Pact is broken, child of honor. And it's like, you're just repeating yourself, dude. Like, chill, calm down. Odium comes, most dangerous of all the 16, you will now go. Odium reigns. And that's like how the vision, whatever you want to call that, how that ends. And that is just so ominous. And then he drains some more spheres. Also, I don't know why, but I'm just really, I always love Bridge 4, of course I love Bridge 4, but I'm really enjoying the like specific conversations. I think I always do, but I just forget how much I enjoy them. Sigil and Caledon's talks are always good. Caledon says like, I'm no Light Eyes, and he says, you hate them so much. I hate their lies. I hate it that I used to believe they were honorable. Would you cast them down? Rule in their place? No. This seemed to surprise Sigil. I just love that. And also Moshe is there, but you know, fuck Moshe. Don't care. I also love this like little back and forth with Rock, where he goes like, I've seen your kind before. What, Asish? We're not that rare. No, not your race, your type. What is it they are called? Visiting places around the land, telling others what they have seen. A world singer. Yes. Is that the right name? No. Sigil froze, and he suddenly stood up and stalked away. I just love that he just calls him straight out, and Sigil is like, I am leaving. Please focus on me. Hello? My face, not the pillow. Okay, that was weird. So I don't know how long I was out of focus. Sorry about that. I also love when Caledon like insults Teft. He smiles. He's like, you reminded me of better times. Like, that was really cute. I love Teft so much. Bree and I keep talking about how we like keep tearing up whenever Teft even just like appears. His name appears, I cry. That's just how it works now. And then also I love when he mentions the name Odium to Syl, she hisses. And it's like, it was a feral, disturbing sound. She zipped off his shoulder, becoming a darting streak of light, and shot up underneath the eaves of the next building. I always forget that you see Adolin from Caledon's point of view, like you see him stopping this random officer. He had light golden hair, speckled with a lethy black, and a handsome face. I also like that he's like, he calls him Bridge Boy. I love them a lot. I just really, I don't ship them like a lot of people do. I know a lot of people ship them, and hey, you do you. I understand why you would ship them. I don't personally, but like, I get it. And then we're back to Shaylin, who is in the hospital. And I do love that Jasna was waiting out in the hallway, like doing her research out there. I do like that, even though she did purposely hurt herself, but she wasn't purposely trying to, like, she was trying to cover something up more than actually like hurting herself, if that makes sense. I think that makes sense. But anyway, I really like that Jasna is the only one to not like tiptoe around the subject, because I think Shaylin and I would agree on this, but tiptoeing around when there's a problem it just annoys me. Like, it doesn't help. It doesn't make me feel better or anything. So like the fact that they're just all calling it like an accident, they're all like just vaguely referencing it, and Jasna is like, I'm sorry I drove you to suicide, here's some bread. And then obviously Capsule poisons them all. So, you know, that's fun. Oh, and I didn't mention it before, but there's one line Shaylin is talking about how she's reluctant to leave because she wants to keep being here. She enjoys being here. She enjoys researching and everything that involves. And one of her thoughts about it is the fact that like she would miss the research and the like scholarly pursuit more than she would miss Capsule. And then you have Caledon starting to train them in the spear, and he's also talking about how quickly the Bridgemen are excelling at training. Like, they're doing things much earlier than he would train normal people. And I just love the line, by seeking to beat them down, Sadeas had prepared them to excel. It's a good fucking line. And then of course we end this part on Amaram being a total asshole, just the worst of the worst, and Caledon getting his slave brand. I love Baxel's interlude. The mistress took a knife and slashed the painting. Baxel cringed but said nothing. He'd almost gotten used to the casual way she destroyed art, though he was baffled by it. And I also love in this scene, there's so much happening. It's like a 3-4 page interlude, but there's a lot packed in here. So first of all, there's Ash just destroying shit. Second of all, there's them talking about the Night Watcher and how you get like a boon. What's it called? It's not called a curse. Anyway, I just like that. And then I love the next one, Tranded. I'm not sure how you would pronounce their name, but I love the studying of this bread and and how the measuring makes the fire spread freeze. And then more Sveth doing much killing, how he's like sobbing as he does it, and then like he stops crying because he just has no more tears left. Man, I have a lot of feelings about Sveth. I've been recording for so long. I'm so sorry. And then we get right back into the Colon boys discussing stuff. Dalinar, Adolin, and Renarin. And by the way, the first instance of Renarin, I just wrote hearts around his name because that's who I am as a person. It's been a while in this vlog since I mentioned to you guys that I love Renarin, but just in case you've forgotten, I love Renarin. We have Dalinar still wanting to abdicate the high princedom to Adolin, and Adolin being like, no, that's not what I wanted you to do. Don't give me that responsibility. And then we have Dalinar having a vision, and it is one of the most horrifying visions. So he's watching it happen, and as you realize what's happening, like the first time you read it, as you realize what's happening, it's horrifying. But then also he has like this terrible feeling with him, and like the first time you read it, you just assume it's like because something terrible is happening, but also it's because this brother died. What was that dreadful feeling? That screaming he swore he could almost hear? The most interesting thing to me is that on a reread, you can definitely tell that his responses are not actually responses because they're just not worded correctly. Like, they're worded slightly off, like they're almost responses. Like, I get why Dalinar thinks they're responses. Is it Renarin that has the idea to be like, maybe, oh yeah, Renarin's like, well, what if we proved whether or not the visions were true? That either what he sees is correct or false based on the details and the information in them. And they bring Navani in to scribe because they can't trust anyone else. I do just love how Teft is the most subtle person. The subtlety does not exist. The subtlety does not exist. He keeps being like, so like, do you feel weird at all? Have you like noticed the sphere straining? Like, you noticed anything weird going on? And Caledon is like, what? He's like, nothing, absolutely nothing, everything is fine, I'm not asking any questions. Oh, and then this chapter with the scene with Wit. It's such a short scene, but it has so much in it. He's like, the winds are changing, a whirlwind shifting and churning, blowing us round and round, like a world spinning, but we can't see it because we're too much a part of it. World spinning, what foolishness is this? The foolishness of men who care, Dalinar. And then he drops the big A word, just like ad nauseum. What? Have you heard of the term, Dalinar? What? Nothing, nothing. And then he just like goes off with some words and some nonsense, but then he says this. I wonder if you could do that to a man. Pull him apart, emotion by emotion, bit by bit, bloody chunk by bloody chunk, and then combine them back together into something else, like a Dizian avian. That mention is, that's just a random drop there. If you do put a man together like that, Dalinar, be sure to name him gibberish after me. Wit will suffice. Or if you must, you may call me Hoid, which is the confirmation, obviously, that Wit is Hoid. I feel like a lot of people catch on to that pretty quickly because he's very hoity. We have this weird conversation with an Ardent who's definitely part of the Ghost Bloods, and it's like, do the Ghost Bloods just have a specific section? Like, they have different, like, devotionary orders, I guess they'd be called. I don't remember what they're actually called in text, but is one of them just specifically Ghost Bloods? Because that would be ridiculous and also kind of hilarious. And then Sadeas does like the one good thing he's done in his life, and Dalinar's like, we can trust him now, and it's like, listen, just because a guy did one thing good one time does not mean that you can trust him. But yeah, they decide to do a run together. I also love how Caledon keeps accidentally dropping things, like when they're in the chasms. It's just a sphere, Caledon said absently. A tool. I once held a goblet full of 100 diamond bromes and was told they were mine. Since I never got to spend them, they were as good as worthless. And he's like, I shouldn't keep mentioning things like that. And also he can no longer ignore the strange speed at which he recovered from wounds. Something odd was happening to him, something supernatural. What if it was related to the fact that everyone around him always seemed to die? And then I like how Caledon realizes that Rock is like, knows more than he's saying, and so just starts saying stuff until Rock finally cases like, fine, fucking give me the bow, I'll fucking do it, just stop talking. There is a sad moment when he then says, I may need a few more shots in the future. That hit. Then we have Dalinar in the middle of a fight doing Dalinar things and realizing like he's actually like paying attention and realizing that not all the fraternity they fight are men, and he's like blown away by that. Yeah, and then they rescue fucking Sadeas, and it's like, dude, why would you do this to us? Then we're on the chapter called Wandersail, which is amazing. It starts with a death rattle, and then it also starts again with a death rattle because the epigraph is a death rattle, and then it starts right away with Map's death rattle, where he says, and all the world was shattered, the rocks trembled with their steps and the stones reached towards the heavens, we die, and then he died. But I do like the death rattles in text. Obviously I love all of the death rattles, no matter how creepy they are, they're just so fascinating, but I do just really love the ones in text because I love seeing people actually react to them. It's just dying delirium, like it happens to men sometimes, and Tef says more often lately. It always makes me laugh how Caledon thinks like, will I never stop hearing about Dalinar storming Colin, and it's like, no, I think you're gonna hear about Dalinar for a bit. And then the Bridge 4 salute is introduced. Love that. He figures out he's eating Stormlight because Teft continues to be his very subtle self and asks like, so lad, how you feel? Any odd experiences lately? And he's like, Storm at Teft, that's the 5th time in 2 days you've asked me that. It's like, yeah, real subtle. He like goes to hit him so that he like breathes in the Stormlight, and he's like glowing, and he says like, I caught you feeding off Stormlight when you were 6. Then like he demands to know from Syl like what's going on, and you're not a Wind's friend, are you? She hesitated and then shook her head. No. What are you then? I don't know. I bind things. What if I'm cursed too because of what I'm doing? Caledon, you are not cursed. And then he just like wanders off to have a think, and he stumbles across, you know, Wit just playing some flute out on the plains. Anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about the Wandersail. This is one of my favorite quotes. I love this quote so much. The purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. Too often we forget that. And I just love that because it's true. A storyteller, but also no one, like teachers, whoever else, should not be like telling you what to think. They should be giving you the tools and everything to help you think. So I really love that. And then he gives his flute to Caledon, which goes well. He mentions Sigzil. Take care of that blasted apprentice of mine. He really should have let me know he was still alive. Perhaps he feared I'd come to rescue him again. Apprentice? Tell him I graduated him. He's a full world singer now. Don't let him get killed. I spent far too long trying to force some sense into that brain of his. I just love that. It's really cute. And then Syl comes back and he asks like, if I'm not cursed, then why do I live when others die? Because of us, this bond. It makes you stronger, Caledon. Then why can't it make me strong enough to help the others? I don't know. Maybe it can. The sentence, the powers had unsettled him because of the responsibility they represented. Like, buddy, you don't even know the responsibility you're gonna have to take on. Like, whoo boy, it's a lot. But I love like as soon as Caledon gets back, finds Teft, and he's like, what do you know? Like, how do you know it? and Tef just answers him because he, like, I think he can, like, see that Caledon just needs answers right now. Like, he doesn't have time, and Tef's like, okay, I'll just answer him. And he says, like, when I was a youth, my family belonged to a secret sect that waited the return of the Radiance. I quit when I was just a youth. I thought it was nonsense. How much do you know about what I can do? Not much, Tef said. Just legends and stories. Nobody really knows what the Radiance could do, lad. Caledon meets his eyes and then smiled. Well, we're gonna find out. And I just love that, like, hell yeah, and that's what I'm up to. So the next chapter is called Journey, and it references the Midnight Mother in the epigraph, so I'm gonna edit all the clips I just filmed, and then I think Brie and I are probably gonna get on to read. I'm really excited to finish. I forget, like, I know the Stormlight series is one of my favorite series of all time, like, of course. One of the reasons we did this whole readathon, actually, is because after finishing Rhythm of War, so much happened in it that we were like, we need to, it changes the reading. It changes how you're reading things. It changes, like, what's happening. After Row, we just really needed to reread Stormlight, and I cannot believe that we held off this long, mostly because there was just so much else going on that we just couldn't. We had to wait until our scheduled Stormlight rereading, but I'm so excited that we're finally here. Man, it has been a struggle at points so far, and it's definitely going to be more of a struggle down the line, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm so sorry this is so long. If you're still watching this, thank you so much. We got a bit to go. I'm sure I will have a lot to say about the end bits because there's so much. It's October 6th and I finished The Way of Kings a week ago, but we're gonna talk about it now. And yes, I'm wearing very dramatic makeup because I was playing around, and I have black lipstick on, and the application is not my favorite, but it's not my worst. And also I realized I did green, which is like the least Roshar color there probably is, but we're going with it. I wrote a bunch of notes just to make sure that I didn't forget to mention anything when I came back to talk about it, because I knew it was going to be a few days before I filmed, because we had the live show, and that always just, like, wipes me out. Doing those live shows is always exhausting. So I read the last 200 pages. Now, I first want to just say, once again, as I've already said before, I love Renarin a lot. He's my favorite. And I realized through this reread that there was just a comment when Adolin just thinks about him in, like, a split second, like, just thinking about Renarin for, like, a second. And my comment was just like, I love Renarin so much. So this is a continuing thing through all of my rereads, apparently. I wrote this down during the scene where Adolin is kind of realizing why his dad follows the codes and why it's so important to follow the codes, and why he also, like, he has been following the codes because his dad commanded it of him, basically, but he realizes that he also wants to follow the codes himself. Like, it makes sense to him now, like, why they follow the codes and, like, everything. And I just like that moment. It's a really, like, oh, Adolin's growing up moment. I want to talk about so many things, but now I've forgotten them all. I'm so glad I wrote them down. And then Dalinar explaining his thoughts better, and Elhokar being like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Why didn't you just say that earlier? It's like, listen, Dalinar is not very good at using his words. He's not super articulate, but sometimes he gets it, and we're proud of him when he does. Also, Dalinar and Sadeas, I feel like, are not sufficiently freaked out by Elhokar saying, like, there are faces in the mirrors, symbols twisted and inhuman. Like, I feel like they should be more freaked out by that. I feel like they are not sufficiently freaked out by that, because it is freaky, especially if you don't know what's going on. Also, why do the cryptics love scaring people so much? Why do they see a human that they want to, like, bond with, and they're like, you know what we should do first, though? We should scare the shit out of them. That sounds fun. They seem to do it to, like, everyone. Tef then gives Caledon, like, ideal speech, like, Journey Before Destination. It means blah, 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 like, the whole speech thing he gives. And I just love it so much. It's so much fun. It's so well done. I just love Teft a lot. Oh yeah, and Syl's quote of, like, don't be so risky. If you die, I go stupid again, you know? Like, yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter that you would die. It would matter that Syl would go stupid again. Obviously, that is the most important part. Obviously. Oh, I also really love the quote. This is in Dalinar's, like, final vision, not final vision, second to last vision, and it's when he's talking to Noadon. Is that how you say his name? It sounds like a dinosaur. I don't think I've ever said that out loud before. Anyway, put two men together and they will find something to argue about, but gather them into groups and one group will find a reason to oppress or attack another. How do I protect them? How do I stop this from happening again? And I just love that he's like, so he's having some issues, but he's trying. And then obviously when he comes out of it, this is the point where Navani is like, no, I think you were speaking the Dawn chant, and I think that means we can translate it, which is just very cool and will be very important, of course, later. I also love how much they're freaking out, like how much the Ardents and everything are freaking out about these visions, but like he's seeing the past, which Renarin points out in this section. He's not seeing the future, he's seeing the past. Oh, I also wanted to mention that I just kept drawing hearts around, like, everyone from Bridge 4's name except for Moshe. not Mosh, but everyone else, I just kept drawing hearts around their names whenever they were mentioned, because I just like, I have a lot of love for Bridge 4, like I always have, because they're just so good and so great. But every time I reread this and every time we get a new book, my love for Bridge 4 just grows exponentially, even though I think it's impossible. Just wanted to mention that. There's a scene where Navani is telling Dalinar that like guilt is self-indulgent, and I don't really believe in that. However, I do think it really helps him in that moment, and like going forward, I think that idea really is good for Dalinar. I don't think it's good for everyone, and I don't think it's strictly true, but I do like it in this context. I think it, and I also think it's just interesting. Navani just wants to help him, okay? Also, she's really horny, but mostly she wants to help him. I also love the quote, but weakness can imitate strength if bound properly. It also always hits when they're getting abandoned on the tower. Like, I don't know why, but it just always hits me. I'm never not affected by the Colon boys getting abandoned. It's always like, oh boy, here we go. Let's not tear up this time. And then we have like the Big Sill moment, which is one of Brie and I's like favorite moments. We love Big Sill so much. She's just so great. And it's such a good scene and a moment. And when Caledon is just standing there and he like just like yells like, I've been here before, that moment is just so intense and so, I don't know, there's just something about it. It's just so good. It's so heartbreaking. And then when he like turns to the bridgeman and is like, we have to go back, none of them disagree, and I just, it's so cute. Like, no, of course they don't disagree. I just love them. I don't know why I'm doing the Home Alone face, but that's where we're at in life, I guess. Oh, this is a super random thought I had, but when Caledon is like going into shock after pulling all of those arrows into his shield, they put him in the recovery position, and I'm not sure if that's intentional, like if Sanderson is like, okay, we're gonna do this, but I mean, it's not strictly the recovery position, they don't mention exactly, but they like roll him onto his side and stuff. That's basically the recovery position in our world, and that's just so funny to me. It makes sense, like, good job guys, that's what you're supposed to, put him in the recovery position. But it's just such a throwaway line. I don't think anyone mentioned it or ever talked about it, but also the line, like, the second ideal of the Knights Radiant is very dramatic, but not true. This is only the second ideal of the Windrunners. I mean, he doesn't know that at the time, so we'll forgive him for it, but it's just funny to me. And then of course this whole section with the fighting and everything is just so great. And then when Syl dancing around him as he fights, I always love that imagery. Like every time it happens, it's just such a good image. Her like Light and Syl like basically dancing with him as he fights. It's just, it's top tier. It's top tier content. Dalinar's men finally get to the bridge and they see what's happening. He's just like, Dalinar's thought is just like the bridgemen. They were fighting. It was the most amazing, most glorious thing Dalinar had ever seen, and I just love that line. It's so good. Oh, also Dalinar's quote to Caledon where he says, such a hard man, so young, and it's like, buddy, you do not even know. The Navani point of view, we talked about it briefly in the live show, but Navani just being like, what would Steas do if I just started screaming? And it's like, do you ever have those thoughts? Because I do, and I relate to it, and just like, Navani, why didn't you do it? It would have been iconic. I mean, she's iconic anyway, but like, just start screaming. And then the Renarin reunion, Adolin and Dalinar, is so heartwarming because he hugs them and he's not like a huggy person, so I feel like it just means so much more when he does like hug them. It meant a lot to me. It gave me a lot of feelings. I do love the conversation between Steas and Dalinar after obviously Steas has like betrayed him, and he says the line that's like, you've shown me that I'm still a threat. Every time I'm like, oh yeah. I don't know why, it gets me like so hyped for some reason. It's just a good line. So like Dalinar busts in, is obviously like, beating up Elhokar basically, and Elhokar is like, he says something like, are you gonna kill me? And he's like, no, Storms, I love you like a son. And he's like, you have very strange paternal instincts. Every time I read that line, it makes me like chuckle to myself. It's just so good. It's so funny. And then Dalinar has the thought like, and when you're teaching a child, you require them to do what is right until he grows old enough to make his own choices. And I just like that line. I don't know why, I just do. Then we're in part 5 and Shaylin and Jasna are doing stuff. Once again, we're talking about how the cryptics love to scare the people they want to bond. I don't know why, but it's hilarious to me. Honestly, it's hilarious because they're like, creatures, can you hear me? And they're like, yes, always. And it's like, what? Why? It's not a requirement of being a cryptic to be so creepy. My notes just say, Seth really be struggling, which is true. He really be struggling. But like, just imagine how better our lives would be if he had just killed Taravangian in this moment. Just imagine a life where Taravangian was dead. I'm just saying. The like mic drop about how the Parshendi are Voidbringers, which is obviously not true, but is a pretty like oh shit moment at this time. Brie and I talked about it, and I think we mentioned it in the live show, but the quote that like about humans, how we don't throw away things we can use, is just so creepy, so unsettling. I mean, it's true, but it's very creepy and unsettling. I love the cloak giving. I love the bridgemen just being hyped for Caledon. They ask if they can learn, and he's like, I don't know. But even if they can't learn, they're still like just super hyped for him and are talking about doing, test his powers, see what he can and can't do. And I just love them. They're just so, they're so wholesome. We have the ghost bloods said for the first time, which is, you know, ghost bloody. I don't want to talk about the ghost bloods. I just don't. This video is already too long. We can't talk about the ghost bloods right now. And then we have the first vision that Dalinar saw, although apparently he didn't see it all the way to the end. And I'm not going to quote the whole thing, but like I have like the floppy paperback. And just kind of everything that happens on 997. Like, you might be able to get him to choose a champion. He is bound by some rules. All of us are. A champion would work well for you, but it is not certain. And without the Dawn shards, and it's like, what if we're not without a Dawn shard? Just saying. Don't know what that means, but I'm just saying it. BT dubs, God is dead. Basically that mic drop. There's so many things like back to back that are happening in this section, and I love all of them. It's like, by the way, fucking your mom, by the way, pretend you're Voidbringers, by the way, God is dead. It's like, Jesus Christ, slow down. And then after that is just the epilogue, and I love the epilogue so much. I cannot explain to you how much I love this epilogue. I've reread just the epilogue so many times. First time I read it, I didn't know that it was gonna be like a thing where we got Hoid epilogues, and I love all of them, but I still think this first one is my favorite just because it's just so, it was the first one, you know, it was the first one, and it was so good, and it's so good. It's so good. Sometimes I'll just read it out loud to myself. It's just like, can you feel it? Wit asked of the open night. Something just changed. I believe that's the sound the world makes when it pisses itself. And I just love this last line that it's like, what is it we value? Wit whispered, innovation, originality, novelty, but most importantly, timeliness. I fear you may be too late, my confused, unfortunate friend. And I have just like drawn hearts and exclamation points because that's just how I feel about this epilogue. It's just so good. Yeah, so those are some of my final thoughts about the last bit of The Way of Kings. I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know if you watched until the end, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. Leave me some kind of an emoji, some kind of Stormlight related emoji below if you have reached the end of this video, because truly you are amazing. Yeah, I'm not gonna draw this ending out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and if you've watched this whole video and you haven't subscribed yet, you should do that now. Like this video, and I hope that you are well and safe. Life before death, Radiant.